Shannon Leroy had everything. The perfect job, the perfect home, the perfect husband. And then she bought a boat. Now, when these boats come available, usually you get them used, obviously. When they come available, is it because the previous owner said, "What the hell was I thinking?"
That most of the time, yeah.
This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket. Shannon Leroy is a registered Maine guide. She used to own a sporting camp near Moosehead Lake, and when the Appalachian Mountain Club made an offer too good to refuse, she sold them Meadowissla on Second Roach Pond and went to work for them. So when I heard that she and her husband Larry bought a 34-foot monk and planned to steam off into retirement adventure far from the wilderness they've called home, I was a little surprised. Then I learned another friend is about to do the same thing. Maybe there really is something in the water. Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine is brought to you by Hammond Lumber, Dice Arts, EBS, Doors Equipment, and Napa Auto Parts. It's called the Great Loop. By using rivers and canals, it is possible to go up the Hudson River, through the Erie Canal, into the Great Lakes, down the rivers through the middle of America, and eventually into the Gulf of Mexico, where the route cuts through Florida via the Okeechobee, into the Atlantic, and home, to wherever home is. People who do the 7,000-mile loop are called loopers, and it's growing in popularity among the newly retired, many of whom sell their homes and retire to the boat. To be honest, I didn't really know anything about it until Shannon announced on Facebook that she and her husband Larry were going to do it. So as the show begins, Shannon has already sold her home, she's staying local in the Greenville area, and the only way I could reach her was by cell phone. And that's how today's show begins. Shannon, I've known you for what, over 10 years now, I think.
Yeah, at least.
Now, I knew you when you owned and ran Meadowissla, the sporting camps on Second Roach Pond.
Yes, that's when we first met.
Yep, and now you work for AMC, and I cannot for the life of me remember what your title is.
Well, it's changed over time, so that's probably why. But right now I'm the office manager until August 28th.
Till August 28th, and they know you're quitting?
Yes, yes, I am retiring.
Well, good, because I don't want to spill the beans in this show.
Yeah, that would not be good.
No. Now, this is the second big change that I've watched you go through, because some time ago you sold Meadowissla to AMC as part of their big project. You moved to Monson. Right. You started raising lots and lots of animals.
That's correct. We raised Scottish Highland cattle.
Now you've gotten rid of all of that. So
yes. How
many midlife crises are you expecting to have?
Well, at least 4. Because we're leaving in September to do the American Loop, and we plan on taking 2 years to do the trip. We're going to start by heading down the intercoastal waterways to Florida and spend the winter in Florida and cruising around the islands in the Caribbean. And then in March we're going to head back north, and then we're going to go up the Hudson River to the Erie Canal, and then we're going to go up Lake Champlain. And then we're going to go into the St. Lawrence, over to the canal system in Canada called the Trent Savat.
The what?
And then the Trent Savat.
Okay.
It's a 300-mile canal system that drops you off into Georges Bay, which is the top of Lake Michigan.
Sure it is.
Yeah, right. The last block actually lifts the boat out of the water and runs it down and drops it into the bay.
Oh, is that okay? Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I guess we start with the basics. You bought a boat.
Yes.
What is this thing?
Okay, it's a 30-foot monk. It's a Taiwan-built trawler with one prop and a Perkins diesel motor. It has a salon, a master cabin, a front cabin, a fly bridge, a aft deck, a cockpit, a swim deck, and a bow. So, there's lots of room for us to get some space and move around. And then we have a little dinghy on the back and we're just going to dock when we have to and anchor when we don't and stay on the boat.
Well, has either one of you ever had a boat like this?
No.
So you've had really no experience with this?
Well, not. We had a little last summer.
Yeah, after you bought it.
Well, we've run boats, but this size of boat.
Yeah. So, I mean, at what
Right.
point do you go through the boatyard saying, yeah, I'll take that one?
Well, it took us a year. We've been planning this. Well, we've talked about doing this for 20 years.
Yeah.
But we've actually been planning it for two. It took us about a year to find the boat.
Mm-hmm.
We had Larry's cousin is a broker down in Florida, works through Fort Lauderdale, and he just kept sending us pictures of boats, until we finally found one, and we found this one down in Camden. So we went down and checked it out, and we decided sometime along the way that we either a Grand Banks or a Monk.
Mm-hmm.
So we were looking at those particular models, and this one came available, and we bought it.
Now, when these boats come available, usually you get them used, obviously. When they come available, is it because the previous owner said, what the hell was I thinking?
That most of the time, yeah. This boat is, we're the fourth owner on it. It's a 1987. The first owner did the Great Loop with it. The second owner did the Great Loop with it twice. And the third owner just bought it as a pleasure boat, could go out on, along the coast of Maine. And he was partnered up, and they decided that they wanted something simpler. So they sold it and went to something different.
And you wanted something more complicated.
Yeah, it's going to be.
Yeah. So as we were talking about this, I think you'd made it into Canada and doing this, and you were getting dumped into Lake Michigan the last we talked. What goes on from there?
Okay, well, from Lake Michigan, we're going to go down the western side. Most of the Great Loopers do the eastern coast of Lake Michigan, the eastern side. But we're going to do the western side because my sister lives in Menominee, Michigan. Mm-hmm. And we're going to stop and visit with her. And then we're going to go down, and my sister is going to meet in Chicago because her husband was born and raised in Chicago. And we're going to cruise through the middle of the city of Chicago and meet up to the Missouri River from there, and then into the Mississippi. But we're not staying in the Mississippi. We're going to go over to the Ohio River,
okay,
and we have to go 20 miles up it to get to the Tennessee River, and then we're going to cruise down that river chain all the way to Mobile, Alabama, where we drop to the Gulf of Mexico.
Now, none of that is blocked by dams anywhere, or do you have to go around something?
There's locks and dams and all kinds of things you have to go around. Yeah, it's complicated.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Are you deliberately avoiding the Mississippi River because you don't like Mississippi, or what?
We're deliberately avoiding the Mississippi because of the commercial traffic.
Yeah.
On it.
Okay.
It's highly commercialized.
Yeah.
Highly industrialized. It's not really very pretty.
My guest is Shannon Leroy. She and her husband Larry bought a trawler, sold their stuff, and will motor off this fall on a retirement adventure called the Great Loop. Now, I know what you're thinking. 7,000 miles in a boat that you're living on. Just how much fuel is that going to take? So I'll ask when Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine returns in a moment on Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket. The Great Loop is a round trip through America's inland and coastal waterways that goes up the Hudson, over to the Great Lakes, down the rivers, onto the Gulf of Mexico, across Florida, and back into the Atlantic. Now, I know several Mainers who are actually going to do it. Shannon Leroy and her husband Larry plan to take their time over the next 2 years, but you still have to cover 7,000 miles. And I'm wondering, Shannon, how much fuel is this going to take?
Well, we do 1.5 gallons an hour, and it's going to be 7,000 miles. So Larry has that all figured out as to what it's going to cost us. But I don't do the budget. He does.
I hope it's downhill the whole way.
Nope, I don't think so.
I've seen some of these trawlers that are rigged with sails that don't give you much of a push, but a little bit. Is this one rigged that way?
This one has a sail. The sail is there as a stabilizer in rough water.
Oh, okay.
That's the only thing it does. It's not going to be sailing anywhere as far as that goes.
Yeah. So 7,000 miles at just about a gallon per hour, you said? No, more than that.
A gallon and a half an hour.
Uh-huh. That's not so bad.
Yep. No, we think it does. We call it retirement speed because it only goes about 7 knots.
Yeah, couldn't you walk this faster?
Probably could at times, yeah. Depending on the side of the wind.
So how much room for your stuff on this thing? It's 36 feet long. What are you going to have to leave behind? Everything?
Just about.
Yeah.
Just about everything. We've sold the house, and we have to be out of it by the end of next week.
Mm-hmm.
And we had this huge garage sale and sold a lot of stuff, and we gave the American Legion a bunch to put into their garage sale, and we've given away stuff, and I'm still looking at stuff I'm not sure what I'm going to do with.
Well, I guess a key question for me, if I were to ever think about doing this, is does it have a wine cellar?
It could, yeah.
Could it?
There are some secret spots in the boat. They're nice and cool under the waterline that can take care of that. Yeah.
Okay.
But most loopers do it in the box because they don't like to bring glass on board.
Yeah.
It's easier to dispose of the box.
I suppose. Well, what's this boat going to have on it? Tin cups?
Oh, no, I'll have a few glasses and a couple of coffee cups and a couple of cocktail glasses and a few dishes and whatever, the basics. Fork, spoon, plate, bowl.
Well, when you were thinking of all the things you might do with your life at some point when you approach retirement, what did you decide not to do? Because this is kind of a weird adventure. I mean, you decided not to get an RV. Well,
yeah, there's a huge bucket list. But it is sort of strange to have a desert rat from Wyoming moving on to a...
Yeah, I wasn't gonna bring that up, but yeah, you're from Wyoming. What on earth prompts a girl from Wyoming who moves to Maine to run a sporting camp, get on a boat and do the Great Loop?
Because I have this crazy man that I married.
Well, I was going to say, it couldn't have been you.
No, it wasn't me. It was
him.
Fault.
It was him. All right, I got it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What you put up with.
Yeah, what I put up with is awful.
Yeah.
Don't you feel bad for me?
Just terrible, yeah. So what do you think the biggest challenge is going to be? Mildew?
Yeah, mold, mildew, being wet a lot,
and
moist, humidity. That's going to be the tough part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're going to want to get on land just to get dry, I think, at times.
Yeah. You're going to have to keel haul this and scrape barnacles regularly. Is there a lot of maintenance as you're doing all this?
We're doing that right now.
Yeah.
It's right now. It's in Winterport, and it's getting its bottoms done. We're doing this room hauls. We're getting that all done, and then at the end of 2 years, we'll have to do that again.
Mm-hmm. Now, you've been thinking about it for 30 years, but when did the planning really start?
Years ago. We looked at each other and we said, we're not getting any younger. And this is our 30th wedding anniversary coming up in August. So we figured, maybe that's a good time to make the big leap. So.
When we celebrated our 30th anniversary, we just went out to dinner.
We're going to go on a boat.
Yeah, no kidding. So what is left to plan? What haven't you figured out yet?
Oh, gosh.
Where to do laundry?
Oh, well, that'll be done in the marinas. Once a week, we plan on being in a marina.
Yeah.
The maps now that they have everything lined up, and you can go to marinas that are dog-friendly, marinas that are kid-friendly, marinas that have this, marinas that have that. So we'll plan our way down so that once a week we will stop and do laundry and a long walk, maybe go out to dinner, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
To get off the boat.
Plus, you can do all that laundry at your sister's house.
Yeah, wait till I get there, boy. It's going to be the whole back room.
That's right. Hi, sis. Look what I brought. So we didn't bring that up, but you're bringing your dog with you, too.
Yes. Pearl is going with us, too.
Wow. Isn't that going to get just a teensy bit crowded?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So which one of you is the mechanic, or is this thing foolproof?
He's my motor. He's my motorman, my motorhead.
Yeah.
He loves motors.
Mm-hmm.
He can fix all kinds of motors. I hope he can keep this one running. That's the plan.
He can fix all kinds of motors, but has he practiced on this one?
Oh, yeah, he has already.
Yeah, okay.
He went all through it last year when we first got the boat.
Mm-hmm. So, along this great loop, are you going to fish the whole way?
If I had my way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Larry got crab trap for my birthday, too. So whenever we go on anchor, I'm going to drop the crab trap and see what I can bring up.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a big fly fisherman, and
I know.
there's not a lot of that out in the ocean.
No, but, we're going to be along the shore most of the time.
Yeah, I suppose.
And when we get down to Florida and the islands, there'll be a lot of fishing like that. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm bringing my rod.
Okay. You also go bird watching. You've become quite adept at it. So are you going to do anything with that hobby?
Yes. Actually, I am planning on recording all of that, what I see and hear and knew and learn, and I'm going to put it in a book. I'm going to write a book about it. Birding in the Great Loop.
Yeah. Writing a book is just an excellent way to lose money.
Oh, I'm sure it is. I've already done that one.
Yeah, it ranks right up there with running a boat in the Great Loop.
Exactly. It was never about making money, Bob.
No, I know. So the plan then, just to recap, the plan is you're going to retire at the end of August. You're going to take the boat south, spend the winter down there, then come back up and do the Great Loop, and take really 2 years altogether to do this.
That's correct.
And then you still have property, or at least family property, in Chesuncook too. So you've got a summer place to be, or.
Yep, that's our home base. It's Chesuncook Village, and we bought a piece of property in Stockton Springs where we have our mooring.
Yep.
And Larry built a barn so that we have a place to put our vehicles and our camper trailer. And so when we leave, they'll all go in that barn, and we'll lock it up. And when we get done, we'll come back, and that's what we have.
Mm-hmm. Once you are done all of this, do you have any other stupid plans you're working on?
Well, one big thing at a time.
One big catastrophe after another.
Yeah. We'll work on the next one after we get, this one's done.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I hope you'll post stuff on Facebook, or at least let the world know how it's going, because I kind of like to follow along to see what's going up with you.
It will be I will post on Facebook, and I am going to run a blog, so people can keep track of where we're at and what we're doing.
Okay, well, the best of luck to you.
Okay.
With any luck, maybe I'll run into you this summer.
I hope so. That'd be a great toy.
Great.
I'm trying to get my ocean birds down, so I might be tapping into you for some resource.
We'll go out and practice. After all, you've got a boat.
That's
right. We should do that. We should take your boat out and go birding in the ocean.
I'd love that.
I have found more ways to get free trips offshore.
Good. It's nice to get out there, isn't it?
Oh, I love it. Yep. I mean, the Maine, we take it for granted because we live right next to it, but the coast of Maine, out there in the Gulf of Maine, is just spectacular.
Oh, Bob, I'm blown away. We stay in Stockton Springs, and last year we were cruising, Castine and Owlsboro and down Vinyl Haven and Egmont Reef. It is just fantastic. It's probably one of the prettiest places in the world.
Yeah, and you're going to leave it.
Well, I have to check things out,
Right.
You don't know what you got till you see what else is out there.
Good point. Well, good luck on that. We'll stay in touch, and maybe we can sneak offshore.
Okay, great. Well, thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Shannon.
You take care.
Shannon Leroy, registered Maine guide, former sporting camp owner, new navigator, and soon to be a retired looper, navigating one of America's great inland and coastal loops. Frankly, I didn't know there was such a thing until I learned that Shannon and her husband Larry were about to do it. Then I learned another friend of mine is going to beat them to it. You may not know Steve Spencer, but you might have seen his work and walked his trails. More on that in a moment. He's going to do the Great Loop in an even smaller boat. This could get interesting. Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine. Saturday mornings at 9, Sunday mornings at 8 on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. We've got some Mainers going places. I recently discovered that two of my friends are planning to do the Great Loop, a round trip of inland and coastal waterways that takes you through much of the eastern half of the country. Over the first half of the show, you met Shannon Leroy. Over the next few minutes, we'll catch up with Steve Spencer. When I first met Steve 10 years ago, he was still designing trails for Maine's public reserve lands. He's now gone on to found Laughing Gull Boat Charters, offering guests a variety of offshore adventures along the Maine coast.
And it is that same boat that is about to take Steve and his wife on the Great Loop. But I'm spoiling the story. Let's get right to it. Steve Spencer, welcome to Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine.
Thank you, Bob. Pleasure to be here.
Now, you operate Laughing Gull Boat Charters, which you started doing how many years ago?
Just a couple of years ago.
And what is it? Because it's different.
Well, it is. We're a custom tour boat operation that's mobily based. We launch the boat every time from the trailer, which is kind of, we're on the upper end of what is comfortable for most folks, a trailer. We're a 24-foot boat with a cabin, and it works pretty well. We operate mostly between Portland and Searsport. Kind of our standard prices apply any place along in there, but we're willing to go any place in the state where there's enough water to float the boat.
Mm-hmm. Well, I looked at your website. I saw what the boat is like. Figured you had to trailer that in order to put it in where it needs to go, and you're not charging all that much for a good cruise. So I'm doing the math on this, and you can't be doing much better than breaking even.
Well, it's a labor of love, for sure.
Isn't it? I mean, yeah, we all get stuck doing that, I think. Laughing Gull Boat Charters, then. You will do custom tours, and you have a number of packages you can offer with prices that go into different boat launches, essentially.
Sure, and we can do different lengths of trips. And, I mean, the important thing to remember is it's just all custom. It's based on what the guest wants to do. If you want to be up at daylight to bird watch, we can do that. If you want a sunset cruise, that's well within our abilities, too, and, of course, anything in between.
Mm-hmm. Well, this same boat is going to go on a long trip.
It is indeed.
And that's the reason for my call. I've talked to Shannon Leroy, as you know. But I want to back up a little bit and have you tell me what you used to do, what you do now, and then what you're going to be doing. So let's start with what you used to do when I first got to know you.
Well, for many years, Bob, I was the outdoor recreation planner for Maine's public reserved lands. And I was based out of Augusta, and I got to travel all over the state to design hiking trails and campsites over in the mountains, up in the big woods, and spent a lot of time in the early days of the Main Island Trail helping do the planning and design work for that, which, of course, necessitated a lot of small boat work all up and down the coast, mostly from Portland and Machias, but the other ends as well, too.
So anyone who's been on the Namacanta trails, that was your work?
Correct. I was the lead designer for those trails.
Yeah. Now, did you sign your signature anywhere on it?
I did not. And I should also mention that I had a couple of very tough young Unity College students, John Blaze and Greg Gritzmacher, who did a lot of the legwork, and I would come up every other week to supervise on. That was on the Duchesne backcountry trail section. The Turtle Ridge trail loops, Jim Ecker and I laid out.
That just sounds like too much work as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it is. It's hopefully when it's done right, there's more artistry to it than there is anything else. I think too much of trail design gets focused on the very necessary engineering and ecology pieces. But, when you start to think of hiking trails as being kind of five-dimensional in terms of all the human senses that you want to provide an experience for.
Seriously? You do trails that smell good?
I try.
So you look for balsam patches or what?
Balsam patches. Sweet fern is really good.
Yeah.
Obviously, in the spring, you can get some flowering stuff. But a lot of times, even just temperature differences, when you get a trail really close to a ledge and you can feel the heat or the cold radiating off it and carrying the scents of the mosses with it.
I learned so much from the show because it never even would have occurred to me to make a trail that smells good.
Well, and sounds good, too, and hopefully feels good.
Now, you were very active in the outdoors even before you got to Maine. But you were born and raised in Maine, then you traveled and did some other stuff. Alaska, I think.
I did. My dad was a waterfowl biologist, so I grew up trapping and banding ducks all over the state, and that was kind of my introduction to the outdoors. And I ended up working for the Department of Conservation for about 30 years, and then I took early retirement at age 54 and traveled a bit, went over and did some work in the Marshall Islands, and then ended up the following 3 seasons as a fishing guide in Ketchikan, Alaska.
Wow. So that got you seasoned for what you're doing now?
It did. I've been the last 5 years. I've been the stewardship director from the Damascotta River Association,
Oh, yeah.
which is kind of one of the coast premier land trusts.
Oh, that's a very good land trust. I mean, they're all good, but that one's, if you're going to rate them, that one's in the top percent.
Well, thanks. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So you do that. How often do you actually get chartered? I mean, is this something you do daily, weekly?
Well, up until now, I've been working 3 days a week at DRA and doing a little bit of consulting on the side at Big Pine Consulting. Last year was my first full year of operations, and I think I did about 25 charters. So hopefully plenty of room for growth.
Yeah, but 25 actually fills up a summer surprisingly fast.
Well, it does. I got to take a lot of great folks and met some fabulous people, and we saw some sights and even caught a few fish.
Now, later on this year, that all comes to an end for a little while you go do something else, and it's the same thing that I was talking to Shannon about. You, too, are going to do the Great Loop.
I am. My wife, Libby, and I will leave the 4th of August. We'll launch at Troy, New York, and head up the Erie Canal and on around the loop from there.
Shannon sort of described this to me. You essentially go through the, Erie Canal?
Yeah?
Yeah, and then essentially you end up in Lake Michigan. Then you go down where? Mississippi?
Well, we actually, when we go across the Erie Canal, we'll cut north into Lake Ontario and then across the Trent Severn into Georgian Bay on Lake Huron, and thence down Lake Michigan to Chicago.
Okay. It would be helpful if I actually looked at this on a map, but I'm trying to picture it in my mind, and unfortunately I lost my mind.
Well, I've been this trip's been on my bucket list since 1992, Bob, so I've had a chance to study.
Yeah, I bet you have. So you're going to do it in August, so your study must be about over, and you've got the whole thing planned, and you're probably laying away supplies and all that stuff.
Oh, we're doing all sorts of provisions to the boat to, provide for more storage and trying to plan on, what's kind of in the lockers below decks and what's on deck for toys. And, for instance, we figure that we'll have a little heater with us, but we probably won't have that and the scuba gear on deck at the same time. Or snorkel gear. We don't scuba.
Yeah. But this is a 24-foot lobster yacht with an outboard motor, actually two outboards, so you got a backup outboard.
I do.
That strikes me as a little on the small side to do a trip this long.
Well, it is a small boat, but it's very comfortable and it's nicely appointed. The most important things on a boat like that is, one, you've got to have a very comfortable place to sleep, and we've got that covered. We've got these lovely 6-inch thick mattresses that my wife built for us, and we've got very comfortable folding chairs to sit out on deck, so we can be comfortable. And as far as, no boat is big enough to get any exercise on. We've got folding bicycles and an inflatable kayak to get us away from the boat and explore some bigger landscapes.
Yeah. And that's about all the exercise you get unless you go ashore at a marina and then do what?
We'll ride the bikes and we'll walk around, and, I want to do a lot of exploration of, conservation lands along the way, both public and non-profit. I'm trying to figure out some kind of a blogging project that'll allow people to follow it. It'll certainly be on the laughinggull.com website.
Okay, because I have that bookmark, so I can follow you.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I hope you will, and I hope you'll weigh in with observations whenever they come to you.
Okay. Steve Spencer is my guest. You might know him from the trail design work he used to do for Maine's public reserve lands. Or you may know him because he now runs Laughing Gull Boat Charters. Or you may even know him because you've been listening to the show for the last 10 minutes. Steve and his wife will head off to the Great Loop in August, heading up the Hudson River and over the Erie Canal to the Great Lakes in a 7,000-mile trip, confined on a 24-foot lobster yacht. When you're going to spend a year crammed into a small floating home, you've got to make a lot of decisions about what's not going to go with you. When I talked with Shannon and Arroyo earlier in the show, there was no question about one passenger that wouldn't stay behind, her dog. What are Steve and his wife paring down to? That question is next. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine, and the radio station is Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket. This is Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket with Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine. If Maine is the way life should be, why are my friends leaving it? They're getting on small boats and setting off on the Great Loop, one of America's big navigational adventures, using rivers, canals, and the Great Lakes to loop through the middle of the country and pop out down in the Gulf of Mexico for the return voyage. People who do it are called loopers, and they are doing it in a variety of boats. About the only limitations are that your boat can't be more than 19 feet tall because there's a bridge in Chicago you have to get under, and your draft can't be more than 5 feet because there are some shallow spots you've got to get over. For some of us retiring baby boomers, being a looper has become a whole new retirement lifestyle. You can learn all about it at greatloop.org. Greatloop.org. Steve Spencer and his wife are starting the loop in August at a 24-foot boat, and the packing has already begun. So on a boat that size, you're going to have to leave behind some important stuff you'd like to bring along. So what doesn't make the list of things that goes along that you'd rather...
Well, I've shown some really heroic discipline, Bob, and I've cut myself from my normal 14 fishing rods to only 10.
Okay, that's one.
Yeah. Other than that, I've just recently built these shelves that are about 5 feet long that'll go just above our bunks. Mm-hmm. And that's where 90% of our clothing for the 10 months will reside. So it'll be a fairly tight inventory, and we'll simply have to hit laundromats along the way as needed and resupply. And we anticipate, that being pretty doable. There's a pretty good network of marinas along the way. And
I think that's your exercise, carrying laundry.
Yeah, and 25-pound blocks of ice because we don't have any onboard mechanical refrigeration.
It just gets better and better. What do you do for a toilet?
We have a porta potty that can go about a week without being emptied.
That sounds doable.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I'm, and fortunately the marinas have gotten much better about waste control, and there's good opportunities to pump out and empty tanks.
Yeah. Now, in Shannon Leroy's case, it was her husband, Larry, who really was the inspiration behind all this. Yeah. So she can blame him. Who do you blame?
Well, probably as much as anybody, Dave Getchell, who was the founder of the Maine Island Trail Association. Mm-hmm. Back in 1992, Dave and I took one of the Maine Island Trail Association's 18-foot skiffs, and we did a trip from Yarmouth, Maine to Poughkeepsie, New York to promote these water trails that have become so popular. And we had a fabulous trip. We hit some very rough water and got through it okay, and that made us feel pretty good, of course. And, by the time we got there, we were wondering, geez, what happens if we don't stop at Poughkeepsie, if we just keep going? And Dave says, well, you've got to read In the Wake of the Gemini by Ann Davison, who was this British adventuress who did this loop back in the early 60s, and she did it in a 17-footer with twin outboards, hence the Gemini.
A 17-footer?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. That seems even smaller. There are just some creature comforts I think I'm going to want along if I ever do this, and single malt scotch would be one of them.
Well, it has to go into a plastic bottle, but other than that, that's pretty doable.
Yep. So what other preparations do you have to make in order to do this? I mean, you've got all this planning to do. What are the key parts of the preparation that weighs most on you?
Well, I think the big decision, and one that is an old-time paper map and chart user, is I'm going all electronics on the navigation. Mm-hmm. We'll have a couple of these GPS/chart plotter units on board for backup. And we've also converted the laptop into a GPS chart plotter. We bought a compact disc, or a DVD, I guess probably, of all the nautical charts in the country. So we've got layers of redundancy, and that's kind of the key to it, is redundancy in all things. As you mentioned, we've got a backup motor, we've got a backup two-way radio, we've got any number of backups all through the system for cooking. And
yeah, I mean, you've got backup GPSs, but you also know how to read a chart.
I do, but I'm not actually planning to have paper charts of the entire trip with me.
Really?
Yeah, no, you're looking at pounds and pounds and hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, that actually failed to occur to me. Well, they say that I think Michigan has more lighthouses than any other state. So
yeah, I'm really looking forward to that west coast of Lake Michigan.
Yeah, that's something that never even occurred to me until somebody told me that factoid, just a couple of years ago. I can't even picture it, what it looks like to have essentially lighthouses on fresh water.
Yeah, it's an odd concept.
Now, when you actually do the whole loop, when you're in the inland waterways, probably you don't get the huge waves you would in the ocean, but are there circumstances, especially if you're down in hurricane season, where you get to lay low for a while?
Well, the trip is scheduled to avoid hurricane season. We won't hit the Gulf of Mexico until, Thanksgiving or a little later.
Oh, okay.
The whole trip is designed around the weather and where the best seasonal weather is. For instance, we want to hit Chicago about the third week in September because that's after the Midwest tornado season and before the big lakes get windy in the fall.
Yeah. I would be a little nervous about hearing a Gordon Lightfoot song in the background.
Yeah, those lyrics play through my mind quite often.
Yeah, I bet. So once you're all done going through the inland waterways, you eventually end up in Florida and then come back up the coast. Is that the way it works?
Correct. We'll spend Christmas in Englewood with my mother-in-law, and then from there we'll head down to the Keys and come back up the west coast again to Fort Myers, and then we'll go across the Lake Okeechobee waterway. Mm-hmm. And that'll put us across through the canals and the rivers there and Lake Okeechobee, of course, and put us into the Atlantic Intercoastal Waterway at Stewart.
Well, Steve, I think the test for this particular radio show is to see how many people we talked into doing it or talked out of doing it.
Well, I'm pretty excited. I'll be glad to chat with you again when I get back.
Well, good. I'll follow your blog, and then we can talk when you return.
Super.
That'd be great. Thanks a lot, Steve.
Thank you, Bob.
Steve Spencer, former outdoor recreation designer, current boat captain, and soon-to-be looper. Well, that's about all the time we have. And what? We still have 10 minutes? Okay, let's go on a wild moose chase. Take a few minutes to warm your coffee and get some Benz 100, and we'll jump in the car and head north. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket. Welcome back to Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine. Right this minute, I'm leading a tour in and around Baxter State Park for a bunch of birders from all over the country. I promised to go find them some really unusual birds, and I'm not stupid. So last Sunday, I went to take a look at all my favorite places west of Baxter State Park just to scout it out. And I decided to check all my favorite moose places while up there. Well, as this segment begins, I'm on the Golden Road not long after dawn, staring into the Southahunk Deadwater just south of Aball Bridge. Let's see if there are any moose home this morning. This is one of those wetlands that's just south of Aball Bridge. Often there's moose here, especially morning and afternoon. And this is certainly morning. It's only about 6:20. Alder flycatcher calling in the distance. Red Start next to me. I can see some ducks out there, but I do not yet see any moose. Let's put it on the binoculars. No moose out this side. Of course, that's staring directly into the sun, and there's fog out there this morning, but I can see lots of wood ducks and ringneck ducks. And what do we got there? Loons are calling. But in one of the moosiest places I know, no moose. Okay. Let's go see if there's any in this pond. Ovenbird going off in the distance. Boy, considering it's only mid-June, the water level is already way down. It's been kind of cold, but it hasn't been very wet. Step through the bushes. Okay, do I see any moose? 0 for 2 on moose. No moose here. On the Golden Road, about to make the turn onto the Telos Road. Telos Road, as you probably know, goes due north from the Golden Road right at Ripogenis Gorge. And it goes up to Chamberlain Lake, the headwaters of the Allagash. making the turn now. My odds for moose improve rapidly once I make this turn, because really this has less traffic on it, but it's just as big a road. There's a lot of wetlands along this road that the moose like. So let's see what happens. .706, first moose of the morning. As you go up the Telos Road, about one-third of the way to Chamberlain Lake, there's a salt shed and a little gravel pit. And I swear the moose come in there for a lick. There he goes now. Looks to be probably a yearling male. He's trotting away because he doesn't really trust me. And who can blame him? I don't trust me either. Still heading north on the Telos Road, scattering rabbits everywhere. I don't know what it is for the last 2 miles, but the snowshoe hares have been lining the road, scattering out of the way. They're obviously used to traffic because trucks come by here, so I'm not really in any danger of hitting one, but jeepers, would you guys just move? I have now arrived at the Telos checkpoint, where I will be entering the lands of the North Maine Woods Association. Good morning.
Morning. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. Are you Bob Duchesne?
I am.
Hey, Bob, where you heading?
I'm just going to do the Harvester Road and then up to Chamberlain.
Okay.
Do some of the woods around there.
All right. Just for the day?
Yep.
You all by yourself?
Yep.
It's going to be $7, Bob.
In fact, I'll probably just do the morning.
Yeah. Beautiful day.
Oh, it is.
About time.
I kept watching that forecast saying, this is the one.
I'm going to get to go fishing this afternoon.
I was up here, I think, the first weekend of May, and there was still so much snow in the
Oh,
woods.
gee, what a winter, huh?
Gee whiz.
I was never so happy to see a winter end in my life.
You know, I love winter. I love going outdoors to play, but that was crazy.
Oh, my God. Okay. Just turn this in when you leave, Bob.
Will do.
And you have a good day.
Hey, good luck fishing.
All right, thanks.
Now past 10 in the morning, I spent the last hour or more scouting a place for woodpeckers. Yeah, I'm trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Moose watching. And the 2 birds are 2 of the rarest woodpeckers in Maine. The blackback woodpecker, which is rare, and the American three-toed woodpecker, which is really rare. I'm on the Harvester Road, which is a few miles north of the Telos checkpoint. It's one of the few roads up here that has a sign on it. And I'm a few miles down on that. And yes, both of my rare woodpeckers were right where they were supposed to be. In fact, a blackback woodpecker has taken over the nest hole of what the American three-toed woodpecker used last year. Way cool, because now I can find it when I need it. It's almost 1 o'clock. I've been doing a lot of walking on some of the back roads. Some of these places look great for moose, and there are plenty of tracks, but it's warmed up. It's about 65 degrees, very little wind. Black flies are not bad. A few deer flies, too. So I'm guessing that some of the moose are just back into the water somewhere now. Just about 1 o'clock, and back on the main stem of the, whoops. Sorry. Whee! Going through some puddles. A little bit of puddle action there. I've actually just got off the Harvester Road back onto one of the main branches. Not on the Telos Road. I'm actually to the west side of Chamberlain Lake at the moment. Some patches over here I want to check. It's now 65 degrees. The wind is still nothing. Black flies really have calmed down to almost nothing. There are a few deer flies around, but I'm thinking any self-respecting moose is starting to think about being in water somewhere at this point, because it's certainly warmed up. And there are still some pestering insects around. Only seen the one so far this morning, but done a lot of good walking. The last couple of miles I had bear scat in the road all over the place. Jeez. That answers the question about whether they do it in the woods. All right, I've come back down the Telos Road. I'm at Ripogena's Gorge. 3 rafts have just gone through. Not running all that high today, so that couldn't have been that hard. But I'm late afternoon, and I'm only at 1 moose. Normally, on a day like this, I would expect an average 4. It's almost a moose-free day. From Ripogenus Gorge, this is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine. All right, I'm back at one of the two ponds before A-Ball Bridge on my way out. And of course, I checked this morning, but on the way back out, there is the bull moose. I think I know this moose because I think he's here every year. He is huge. Rack is already coming in, and from this distance, it's big. He's actually head down in the water right now. Every time he pulls his head out, big waterfall drips off him. What a big moose. And that's it. Moose can be awfully easy this time of year. Black flies, road salt, and tender water vegetation tends to bring them out into view. In fact, my real goal when traveling the North Woods is not to see one, it's to not hit one. Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine is brought to you by Hammond Lumber, Dysarts, EBS, Doors Equipment, and Napa Auto Parts. All previous shows are archived on the web at 929theticket.com. Join me again Saturday morning at 9 or Sunday morning at 8. This is Sports Radio 929 The Ticket.